The farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest. You're watching Beyond the Blast Doors live.
Here we go, episode 70 of Beyond the Blast Doors. We are live. Pete Fletzer, guest host this week on Beyond the Blast Doors. You know him as the host and creator of Around the Galaxy. You might actually know Pete as well from being a guest here on Beyond the Blast Doors many, many moons ago. The author himself, the former contributor to the Star Wars magazine. Basically, Pete just does it all. He is my hero. He's your hero. He's everyone's hero. And he has decided to give
my way
us
through it all.
Yeah, he decided to give us his Friday night. We have a loaded show for you. Thank you so much for joining us here again for episode 70. We're taking a look at Rise of Skywalker. That possible next trailer is dropping on Monday Night Football. We hear that Tony Gilroy is going to be joining the Cassian Andor crew for the Disney Plus series. And we also have some updates out of New York Comic Con 2019 edition. And Pete's going to be breaking down that for us since he was there. We just felt it was the most appropriate. So, Pete,
I was a correspondent for Beyond the Blast Doors in New York City.
Oh, I like that. Beyond the Blast Doors
like
correspondent. Yeah, before we get started, Pete, real quick, let's just talk about what is the latest with you in the Star Wars world, because you are a writer, you are a podcaster, you're a creative mind. How are things going over there at Around the Galaxy?
I swimmingly, like much better than I would have expected 6 months in. I had no idea what I was in for when I decided to start the podcast, and I have to say I've had nothing but an amazingly fun time with all the different people I've had on the show. It's just been I just can't say enough great things, and just all the great people I've met through Twitter and other social media platforms. It's renewed my faith in the Star Wars fandom. It's been really a lot of fun. So, but thanks for asking. I probably wouldn't have jumped into it if it wasn't for you having me on a couple months ago. And you know what? I do have an amazing guest coming up next week on Tuesday. I have some guy named David Amilati who's got a show called Beyond the Blast Doors. He's going to be my guest interview for next week.
I don't know who that is, but that sounds like a terrible decision.
He's not bad. He's not bad.
Sorry, that was me drinking my my whiskey. I'm sorry. Just needed a drink.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
No, we had a lot of fun. Honestly, it was some of the most fun Star Wars conversation that I've had in a while. And I really appreciated you asking me to be on the show, Pete. It meant a great deal to me. And we had a great conversation. And I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have here tonight on Beyond the Blast Doors, Friday night edition, live on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. Real quick, before we get things kicked off, I do want to say hi to everyone in the live chat right now. You can always watch us on YouTube when we go live. You can also catch us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, anywhere where you can listen to a podcast at your convenience. But we have John Boffman, our proud Patreon supporter, in the live chat with us. Mr. Rez is joining us as well. It looks like we also have... excuse me, coughing into my mouth. We have coughing in my mouth, coughing in my hand. We have Jesse Buck. Jesse is with us, and he's he's one of the original co-hosts of the show. He's obviously still with us, but Jesse had some surgery recently, and so he's home recovering. I think that the last update I saw earlier today is that he was clear to go back to work. So if everyone can send positive vibes Jesse's way, I'm sure he'll appreciate that in his recovery process. And we have Josh Most with us. Yep, there's Mando. And looks like Daniel's Hot Topics is with us. Underground St. Louis is joining us. My friend Sam from St. Louis. So glad to have everyone here with us on this Friday night. 9 watching. It's going to be a fun show. First things first, though, we always wanted to say a big thanks to our sponsor, the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri, for making this show, the show possible. Fantasy Shop, Maplewood, Missouri, probably serving St. Louis since 1981. They have it all. Comic books, board games, Magic the Gathering, collectibles. The statue selection there is ridiculous for a comic book shop. And that's not a slam. It's just I've gone to a lot of comic book shops. The amount of statues they have at this facility is pretty incredible. So really glad to have them on our team. And again, that's the Maplewood Fantasy Shop in St. Louis, Missouri, probably serving since 1981. And like I said earlier, you can always find Beyond the Blast Doors on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud. Follow us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're also on Patreon. Those are all the pitches. But now it is time to talk about our very first topic of the show. Mr. Pete Fletzer, we have learned within the last 24 hours, this is semi-breaking news, that The Mandalorian, which is set to drop November 12th on the Disney streaming service, when the Disney streaming service becomes available, we now have the air dates for those episodes. And it's really exciting. Honestly, it's really ironic if the timing just kind of worked out here, Pete, because we were just having conversation yesterday when we were going through the rundown. It's strange that we don't have any Mandalorian content because it's just right around the corner. Well, it kind of just dropped in our laps today, right, Pete?
It sure did. They dropped the dates for all 8 episodes. So I guess the first question that's been answered is, how many episodes is it going to be? I don't know if that was ever really 100% clear before that. It confirms really that they're going to be weekly, except for the first week. We're going to get 2 episodes. We're going to get a show on November 12th when Disney Plus streaming opens, and then 3 days later they're going to give us episode 2. And then it looks like they're going to run a Friday to Friday schedule all the way through to the end of the year. So the last episode will run the week after The Rise of Skywalker opens up.
Yeah, I'm really into that when I'm looking at the lineup. And again, it's November 12th and the 15th, as you mentioned, November 22nd, November 29th, December 6th, December 13th, and then we have December 18th. And then, as you again said, December 27th is that season finale. But for me, what really excites me here, Pete, is, right, we know the number of episodes. I think it's safe to say it'll be 8 episodes, probably an hour in length. It'll be 8 great hours of storytelling. Does this kind of get your excitement a little bit more elevated for the series to drop?
It does. It also, it's strangely a little bit almost disappointing when you see the end date already, but that means it's going to end. Oh no, but we know that there's a second season already being worked on. What I find really interesting about that is November 12th and 15th, they're dropping episode 2 the day that Jedi Fallen Order comes out. So I'm feeling a sick day coming on for a good percentage of the Star Wars fan base. I think maybe a week-long flu perhaps might hit a bunch of folks.
It's funny It's funny that you bring that up because Gilbert was talking about how we need to take 3 days off so we can rewatch all the Star Wars movies just before the theatrical release of Rise of Skywalker. And I'm like, well, how am I going to take 3 days off? He's like, you'll just fake sick. And you have a great point. There's going to be like millions of fans doing that whole week.
Yeah.
Just to get ready for it.
Yeah, it's going to. Yeah, and I mean, I can't believe they're dropping 2 that first week. I love that. Dave, how do you feel? I know we've probably talked a little bit about this, or you probably talked about it on your show, but how do you feel about the week-to-week versus the binge style of show?
I really dig it. I'll tell you, because when I think of what I love about the prequel trilogy, for an example, is that I loved the suspense of 2.5 years about in between each movie, and then I was able to talk about what I really liked about the last movie and kind of speculate where that was, what was going to unfold. 2 years from then, when you saw Attack of the Clones or when you saw Revenge of the Sith. But I kind of learned my lesson in a way with The Last Jedi, because the difference then compared to now is we have social media, right? And so I want to taper my expectations, but I still like the idea of having a week in between episodes once you get past those first 2 to where you can really dig into that and you can talk with friends and talk about what you liked, what you didn't like, but where you think certain characters are going. You're going to have, obviously your main band of stars here, but you're going to have these second tier characters that are maybe coming in and out, and you're going to want to speculate, well, where they're going or where are they coming from. It's like when you watch, for me, when I watched that cantina scene in A New Hope, well, how did all these people show up? I want to know the story of how they got there, and we're going to get that with The Mandalorian. So I like the opportunity of having a week to watch the episode, digest it, talk about it with friends, and then see what happens the next week. David Gilbert on the show, he'll tell you something different. That he will tell you that he would prefer to see all the episodes dropped on the same day so that he can binge watch them. And and then that's fine for some. We are in the age of binging, but I really am over the moon that they decided to do it this way because for all the reasons that I said, and also I don't want it to be over so quick. You made the great point that it's kind of bizarre seeing the end date already, but I want to really savor this moment. 8 episodes, it's going to go by quick, but the quality is going to be unmatched in Star Wars storytelling, I think, visually. And I'm just excited to see what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau have prepared for us, because this is these are two huge fans, but these are like fans. You know what I'm saying? So
Right,
I'm really
right.
excited
Yep.
about those stories. Do you have any inclination? We've gotten a few more images to drop, of
Yep.
characters, but do you have any speculation or where you think this series might go?
Honestly, not really, and
And that might be the best
it's
thing about this whole
primarily
series. We don't know.
Exactly. Well, I think that's one of the great things. That's why I love the fact that there is the week to week approach to the show because one of the so let's take Stranger Things for example. I feel like I'm so far behind on that I can't get caught up and I don't want to listen to anybody talking about it because I don't want to hear anything and this allows us as fans to continue to talk. But to your question, I think the great thing is we really have no idea what's coming. I think the show is going to, we know it's going to be an amazing bounty hunter story. We have that, but that's like saying Game of Thrones is about some people who are trying to win over the ruling of a kingdom, and that simplified it, right? So I think there's just a lot of pieces to it that we haven't gotten yet.
I'm really excited to see what here unfolds as we get closer to, because you would have to think that we're going to get maybe another article drop right before this thing before it's unveiled on Disney Plus, or do you think that we won't hear anything more about the Mandalorian until it does drop there on November 12th?
I think they're about to shift gears to full on Rise of Skywalker. So I think that's better. I think, Alex Kane, who is a freelance writer who does some work for StarWars.com, just published an article that I haven't read yet, but I saw him post it today. So he does a little bit of a preview. So I don't know if there's any more detail in that. So Alex on USAtoday.com was able to, actually, I don't know if it's just on the site or on print. Doesn't matter. But he wrote a little blurb about it. I don't know if there's more detail on that, but I really believe that I think they've just told us enough to get our interest. We may see a couple more stills here and there, but I don't really think I don't think we're going to get much more. I think they're just going to say, "Come watch it."
I'm really excited, and again, and we know that there's a season 2 that's already been greenlit. We know that these scripts are already in development with Jon Favreau. We know Jon Favreau will be directing in season 2, but I am still so excited to see the variety of directors behind the camera for this first season. I think it's going to be like Harry Potter in a way where like those first 2 feel very similar, but then 3 felt very different, 4 felt very different, 5, 6, 7 very different. And so I'm really thrilled about that because that's one of the benefits of the streaming service, I think, is because not that allows just more content to be created, greater quality content to be created, but also it allows content creators to become involved. And I'm just really thrilled to see where this goes. And we're going to talk about it later in the show, Tony Gilroy jumping in on the Cassian Andor series for the streaming service. But it's a really exciting time. And again, if you're just joining us here on the live show, this is Friday, October 18th, episode 70 of Beyond the Blast Doors Live with guest special co-host Pete Fletzer of Around the Galaxy. Pete, your title might change 5 different times as this episode plays out. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. But in case someone is joining us, November 12th, 15th, 22nd, 29th, December 6th, 13th, 18th, and 27th, those are your release dates for the 8 episodes of Season 1 of The Mandalorian premiering on the Disney streaming service November 12th when that becomes available. Now, real quick, before we transition to the next segment, I do want to ask, have you gotten your subscription to Disney Plus yet, or are you waiting for the bundle?
I haven't gotten it yet, and I see, every day I see either some sort of Groupon or some sort of, I don't know what the hell I'm waiting for. I'm not. I'll probably end up doing it on the morning of the 12th, and just because that's the way I've been. How about you? Have you gotten yours yet?
Of course not. This show started 37 minutes late. You think that I'm already got the streaming service downloaded? Are you kidding me? I'm just trying to figure out why I didn't bring the whole bottle of whiskey over here. Oh, no, I kid. I'm having a great time. Hollow Chronicles joins us in the live chat, by the way. They're asking, do you think The Mandalorian could possibly overshadow the Rise of Skywalker release? And that's from Josh, our good friend over there at Hollow Chronicles podcast. If you haven't already, check them out. Twitter and Instagram is where I follow them. They also do a great show. But Pete, what do you think about that? Because if I'm being honest with you, for me personally, it kind of does. It kind of does overshadow that release.
It's a great question because to me it becomes sort of this: will it lessen the intensity of the buildup, or is it like a is it like a great appetizer for a great meal? And I like to think of it as it's just going to continue to get us pumped up. I don't think it's going to overshadow it. I think though it can only help the Star Wars interest. Where the challenge will be, and I think this is the challenge that Disney has had with everything they've released since Rogue One, is making it easy for the lay fan, the person who's not on Twitter 24 hours a day like me, make it easy for them to kind of understand, where does the Mandalorian fit? Is this during the Rise of Skywalker? Is it after? Is it before? I think that's going to be a little bit more of their marketing challenge. They might not care as much because it's on the streaming service, and so they'll be able to lay that out a little bit easier. But I think it will cause some confusion. I mean, I still talk to friends who are like, is Jin Rey's mother? Is that Princess Leia? What, so they don't really know. The average fan, sorry about the air quotes, the average fan may find it a bit confusing. So
I think you have a good point, and I think that's why I think it would benefit from more promotional material to kind of create this separation of, hey, so The Mandalorian is this story that's happening on the streaming service, and The Rise of Skywalker is this final installment of the cinematic saga that we've been playing along with for 44 years. I just think that I'm more excited. Like, I've seen what this sequel trilogy is, and there's a lot of things that I like, and there's some things that I don't like, and I just think that The Mandalorian and streaming in general has so much potential that even though I'm like looking at that December release, the theatrical release, over in the periphery, I just know The Mandalorian is sitting there, and I'm just excited about all those adventures that we could go. I really want the Benioff and Weiss movie, whatever that's going to be. We don't know if it's going to be a trilogy anymore or a single film. It changes every day. Like, are they going? Is Ryan Johnson going first? We're not sure. He doesn't seem to know. But I'd like to see Old Republic stuff. The more we talk about the theatrical release and stuff coming on with the streaming service, I think I'm more likely to get my Old Republic fix on the streaming service, which doesn't upset me at all. But a really great question.
No, I think,
I didn't mean to cut you off. That was rude of me.
No, I cut you off, and I apologize. That was very rude.
I thought about branding this episode "Two Sophisticated Men Talk About Star Wars," but I thought, who the hell would watch that?
Well, and I don't know that we could live up to that.
No.
Although I realize I'm drinking bourbon from, like, I think it was my grandfather's glass or
Get
something.
out.
It's very
let's see that glass.
I don't know. I mean,
raise it up.
It looks it, right? It's kind of
Dude,
like,
that is a classy glass.
very classic 70s, right?
Yeah, I have.
I feel like I should be wearing like a mood ring while I'm drinking.
Oh my gosh, that's filthy. That's that's like my dad's pinky ring that like I'm probably gonna inherit one day. But for right now, that's just a filthy thing. Here, I'm gonna show you mine. This is my whiskey glass. This was actually a gift to me from David Gilbert's mom for my birthday. These are glass blown whiskey glasses from England. So go figure that one out. Imported.
Fancy, very fancy. Love it.
All right, maybe you should talk about some more Star Wars. So let's go ahead and talk topic number 2 here on let's talk about topic number 2 here on Beyond the Blast Doors, episode 70. I really appreciate everyone indulging the casual conversation that we're having on the show. I think that's part of the fun of doing this on a Friday night, part of the fun of having Pete guest host. A lot of people have been clamoring, when is the next visual content? When are we going to get our next look at The Rise of Skywalker? We've already talked about in the show how it's dropping in December. It's episode 9. It's the last film for the Skywalker saga. We have a story floating around the internet this week that JJ says, I'm closing out all 9 movies. And the people have been on set. I'm thinking of Kevin Smith, who's been on set, and he says he was blown away from what he saw on set. There's a lot of positives that suggest that JJ is going to pull this off quite well. The Rise of Skywalker trailer to drop this Monday, October 21st, Monday Night Football. This comes to the good guys, our friends over at Black Series Rebels. They say that they have a reliable source saying that that they're told from industry friends that this trailer is going to drop on Monday Night Football. We don't know when, so you're going to have to watch the whole game, and I think that's kind of the point, is that you would watch this entire game. But, the question, and it's kind of like the title of this episode, one of them at least, is, who do we think, as far as character, is going to stand out in this new footage that we get? And Pete, this was something that you and I discussed before the show, was what do we even call it? Are we calling it a trailer? Is it the second trailer, or is it the third teaser? Is it a sneak peek? Because we got the D23 sneak
Yeah.
peek. It's not the same. It's not the same structure that we might have seen with The Force Awakens, where it was teaser one, full trailer, trailer 2, the international trailer, 3,700 TV spots that week before the theatrical release, right? So it's a little bit different. But your initial thought, will we actually see this footage tomorrow? Can we put our trust, or as they say, can we take it to the bank, what these Black Series rebels are saying?
So I've actually just over this afternoon and early evening, I've seen some stuff from Outlaw Noah as well, saying that tomorrow we're going to get a teaser. You know, that commercial for a commercial, that 15-second sort of thing. Now, I don't know if that's, I don't know where that source is, but I'll buy it. And then allegedly Sunday, we're going to get the official announcement of the trailer with the poster, and then Monday Night Football. Either way, I'd say it's pretty possible, because actually I went on to my Fandango app and did find that some theaters have already started posting the times. You can't buy tickets yet, but some theaters have posted times for the 19th. So of December, the night before that Thursday evening showing. So what that tells me is that it is imminent, and Monday Night Football is the pattern over the last couple of episodes. So I would say there's a real good chance that it's coming. My position, though, is I don't know if we even need it at this point. The people who are going to see it are already ready to go. So I'm really curious as to what a trailer could possibly hold.
I think for me, I want to see some Palpatine. And all right, let me start with this, because I know that I gave a prompt, which is what character will stand out the most. The first thing I like about this is you have to address the lay movie-going fan, not just the casual Star Wars movie-going fan that like sees in the movie when it comes out in theaters and maybe watches, Empire once or twice a year. I'm talking about like the real casual fan that at this point, maybe they only go to the theater once or twice a year in general to see the new releases, right? So you have to get them, and you have to make sure that they know that there is another Star Wars. This is a saga Star Wars film. We need to make sure that they know that they need to get to the theater, because obviously, because we were distracted with, I think it would have been Infinity War at the time, nobody knew to come out for Solo. Solo didn't get any love. And I blame a lot of that on the marketing. It was a good movie. Would have liked to have seen, I think, the movie that we got, I would have loved to have seen Ron Howard just do it from start to finish, but that's besides the point. I don't think the casual fan, and maybe even some Star Wars, like the casual Star Wars fans, are aware that somehow the Emperor is connected to what we're going to get in December. And all we've got is the voiceover work, but I think it would go the extra mile with fans if they saw a hooded figure in the shadow walk out, and then you hear the ominous laughter again. I think that would really send it home. And so that's why I think we need it. Because when I'm talking to folks, like I'm talking to my dad, for example, and I sent him the trailer. We were at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. I sent him the trailer after it hit on YouTube. I said, watch this and let me know what you think. And he watched it, and he's like, yeah, I liked it a lot, but what's at the end? Who's that laugh? I go, are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, there's some people who think it's Snoke. There's that whole thing. So you're leading me perfectly to a point that I think here's what I think. And I'm probably totally wrong on this. First of all, I feel like the best possible trailer, again, those of us that are full-on Star Wars nerds, we're already overanalyzing every single word that we see. And so any additional images are probably not really necessary. So here's what I would do if it was up to me, and luckily it's not, because I'm not qualified to do it, but I would make a trailer that was chock full of images that tie the first 9 or the first 8 to number 9. I would make it so that when my 70-year-old dad is watching it, he's like, "Yep, this is my Star Wars. This is Star Wars." When the 20-somethings who grew up on the prequel see something, they're like, "Yep, this is connecting to my Star Wars," and just making that connection. Now you can definitely do that by sort of maybe focusing on Palpatine to the Emperor, and then maybe showing a couple clips and bringing it all in. But I think the trailer is not for you and I. It's for that periphery, that 80% of the movie-going public that isn't sure what this movie is about, especially now we've had 4 Star Wars movies that have bounced all over the timeline.
Well, and to be fair, we've already had something kind of like what you're describing. We've had that. What it was the D23 piece where it was
Yeah.
moments from each
Yep.
of the movies, and then we got Sith Rey with the double-sided red lightsaber, snap action.
Yep.
Like a snapback hat, but with a lightsaber. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
then we had to see all the images of people on Twitter being like, "It's not possible for a lightsaber to bend and still have a blade." And I'm just like, man, that is a lot of energy to be pouring into this. Can we just all awe at the fact that Rey looks hot and black and has a double-sided red lightsaber? Like,
Right.
my
Aren't
God,
we
that's
happy with
amazing.
that?
So here's my thing. The prompt is, what character, no matter what kind of footage we get here, Pete,
Yep. Sure.
whether it's Monday Night Football, and I want to believe the guys over at Black Series Rebels, Steve and Alex, are just great
I
dudes.
think they're right. Yeah.
I think they're right. What character will stand out in that footage? Because we're safe to assume that aside from TV spots, this is the last like new nugget of footage we're going to get before we go in and see that movie in December. So what character in your eyes steals the show?
Good question. I'd like it to be Kylo Ren, but I don't think it's his movie. I think it's Rey's movie. But I feel like, to play up on that sort of reminiscent kind of perspective that I was thinking, I think we get some Leia voiceover on this one, and I think she steals the show on this.
Leia?
Yeah.
I could be into that. You know, we got some previous release images from the set of Episode 9 playing right now for your viewing pleasure. But when I'm thinking about who I want to see stand out, I like the idea of Kylo, but I just don't know how. Like, I think Kylo will steal the movie. I don't know if he will steal this trailer for me. But that's just because I think that the moment he's already had his moment in this preview stuff, like he takes the butt end of his lightsaber hilt and he puts down a Knight of Ren real quick and real hard, and that was arousing in a lot of different ways that we cannot go into on the show. But I think that if Palpatine arrives, Palpatine will steal the show. I think if they were to show like a Force Ghost Luke, I think Force Ghost Luke would steal this show. And now this is a really big if here, Pete.
Yeah.
If they showed Force Ghost Anakin interacting with Kylo Ren,
now that would be cool.
I think Force Ghost Anakin steals the show.
But is that the kind of thing they're gonna put in the trailer? Like, because that's something like, so like when I saw The Last Jedi, I had no idea Yoda was coming, and when Yoda showed up, that was the the sort of, oh my God, that's the dude, that's the thing. That was kind of one of the big surprises for me. So the other thing I think we're going to see a lot of, and I've heard this on I think Beyond the Blast Doors talked about this. I think we're going to see a lot of the characters that we've been getting glimpses of, like Zori Bliss, like Babu Frick, which is just a fun name to say. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see Sith troopers in this trailer as well. But I think it's going to be quick glances. The way they do that, sort of the hard hits, real quick. And again, I think the reason you bring in Leia, and I think the reason you might want to bring in Palpatine, is so that you remind people that this is your Star Wars, whether you're 60, 50, 40, 30, 10, 20 years old. This is your movie, and this is all coming back for you. So I think it's going to be sort of a, remember these guys, and here's some cool stuff that you've seen, and we'll see you in December.
I think you're right. I think I think I think you're right. It's gonna be quick glances. I think it's gonna be scenes that maybe we've already seen. It's just gonna be like 5 seconds earlier or 5 seconds later. But I would like to.
Yes,
I mean, I'd like to
agreed.
see one new thing. The first teaser that we got the Palpatine's laugh, and then we got in the next one we got Dark Rey. If it follows that trend, we talked about just how this content is released trend, but if that habit of saving a big reveal until the very end is maintained, it really excites me. And I don't know. I almost wanted to say it would be something with Leia, but I think that Leia is going to get out of the way pretty early on in this movie. I think they're going to address, like, I think she and Rey has that moment very early on, and then they go off on their adventure. I don't think we see Rey. I mean, I don't think we see Leia again, unless they did some kind of like Return of the Jedi thing where they bring everybody back around a campfire and play a little nut dib, and then you get like the Force Ghost reunion. I really want Force Ghost Anakin, but maybe it's not going to happen. But I guess that's like the one thing that I'm going into that movie wanting to have happen. So if that doesn't happen, maybe I get a little bummed out. But it is.
No, I think you're right. I think the other thing to keep in mind is we know the movie is going to be, the latest number is 2 hours and 35 minutes, right? I think that we are not going to catch a single frame of film from that third act of the movie until it hits. I feel like JJ's got some surprises in there that I'll bet you some of the cast doesn't even know about. And so it's my sense that, and that's why I've said this before, and I've said it to people online. I think the Rey Kylo fight that we saw the glimpse of in either the trailer or the D23. To your point, I can't keep track of which is which. I think that happens middle of the film. That's just my own personal guess. Yeah, I think much like Rise of Last Jedi, that's sort of two movies. It's like a 2-hour movie and then a half-hour movie at the end. I think we're going to see a similar thing here. I think it's going to be. I really believe that Jar Jar, JJ. Maybe it's Jar Jar.
If Jar Jar shows up, he's stealing the show. If Jar Jar shows up, he will steal the trailer and the movie.
I tweeted joking around that the last line of the trailer is going to be Jar Jar saying "Misa back." I think that might. There's a chance that might turn people off. So
I think that'd be hysterical. I mean, if in the sense that JJ has been known to like misdirect and almost blatantly lie to fans.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you're gonna lie, go big or go home. Get a mid-best back into the mocap stuff and trot them out there. Right. Let's go back to Mos Espa randomly. It's like you'll have like all these shots of like you'll see like Kylo and Rey dueling on the remnants of the Death Star, okay? And then you'll have like space battle montage, and then all of a sudden the screen goes black, and then it pops back up. You're on Tatooine. It's the Mos Espa grandstands, and you see him just kind of sitting there, and this like little bug comes up, and he just throws that tongue out there, snaps him back, Misa back, boom. Title slate.
There you go.
No.
There you go.
You know what? No one watches that movie, and no one's watching this show anymore. No, I'm just kidding. We have 10 hanging out with us, 12 now hanging out with us in the live chat. People actually want Jar Jar. Mr. Rez just said he wanted Jar Jar. If believe it or not, Pete,
I'd love to see Jar Jar in this. I would love him to have a cameo
before he dies as a street clown.
Yeah, right. Maybe on Pisana, he's like working one of those tents that we saw. He's like
that would be.
He's a street performer.
Well, now you read Chuck Wendig's Aftermath books, right?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, so there's like that one sequence in there that he details. Yeah, and then he just dies as a joke. Yeah. People just didn't appreciate that character, and like that's a whole like another side tangent. But like Jar Jar actually is the reason why we have a lot of the movies we have today. So. Wanting to hop in here to the live chat real quick. I know we went long on that topic, but it was just a lot of fun to talk about.
Sorry.
No, it was honestly, Pete, it was all my fault. We are two sophisticated men drinking whiskey and bourbon. It's my fault. I'll take the blame.
Talking about Star Wars on a Friday night.
It's you have a wife and kids. I don't know why you're here, honestly. Hollow Chronicle says Force Ghost Anakin will happen. That's what Josh says. Alex says he needs some trained lightsaber fighting. I'm all down for that. Need a big lightsaber battle in this movie, in this final movie, and need a big space battle in this movie. Underground St. Louis Sam says, I can't wait for this new trilogy to be over. I would love to see a new trilogy with new characters set somewhere in the Old Republic. I don't know if that's going to be a trilogy, Pete, but I do still think that it's going to be Benioff and Weiss in 2022, taking us all the way back and doing that.
Yeah.
Jar Jar would be better than the little orange guy hanging out with Chewbacca. I think Underground STL is talking about porgs. Where do you stand on porgs, Pete?
I have no problem with porgs. I'm porg friendly.
Oh, dude, if a porg shows up in the cockpit of the Falcon with Chewie in the trailer on Monday night. Porg steals the show. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to
Wait
the
a second
third topic of our show here of Beyond the Blast Doors live episode 70. Oh, keep it right there. Pete has a Porg. That thing is huge. That is like cuddle size for Gilbert. Topic number 3 here on Beyond the Blast Doors episode number 70 is the Zori Bliss C-3PO connection. And this is in there. To break this down, there was a Twitter user a couple of days ago, I think it was, that once this new image of Zori Bliss dropped on the web, this user immediately was like, hey, that looks like that piece of hardware on the back of C-3PO. And I thought, it would be really cool to get that Twitter user to come on the show because the tweet has like 700, 800 likes at this point, picked up by StarWarsNewsNet.com. Nerdist, I just found out, had him on. And it just so happens that is our own Pete Fletzer that is joining us today. Pete, welcome to the show. Glad to have you in.
Thank
it's really
you.
nice.
It's
Yes.
pleasure to be here.
So bring us up to speed here. I think it's Entertainment Weekly,
Yeah.
I think, that drops this image of Zori Bliss holding up what looks like, I don't know, I'm just calling it some kind of disc. I don't want it. I really don't want there to be another MacGuffin. Like Luke Skywalker was a MacGuffin in The Force Awakens. We made the Keybreaker a MacGuffin in Episode 8. Like, it's just old. Like, let's just go have a big space lightsaber battle. But how did you, like, it took you, 5 seconds to be like, I've seen that thing before?
So the funny thing about that is, first of all, I didn't think it was. I thought it was pretty fun that it took off the way it did, because I didn't even think anything of it. Because so I had a day job about 10, 12 years ago, and I don't know if you remember those little Rydell helmets of Holo Chronicles. You guys are still on. You'll remember those little Rydell helmets. There was a C-3PO. There was a Darth Vader. There was a Stormtrooper. There was an X-wing pilot. But I had a C-3PO, and it sat on my desk in front of me for a couple years. So that disc, that back of C-3PO's head that you see there, has been staring at me, and I knew C-3PO's head more than I should. That sounds really strange to say, but and as soon as I saw that picture of Zori holding that up, I said, that is the thing that's at the back of C-3PO's head. So I posted it and put my phone off to the side, and it keeps buzzing and buzzing and buzzing and buzzing and buzzing, and it got shared and retweeted and commented on. And like I said, it was picked up by my friends over at Star Wars Newsnet. It was picked up by Nerdist. It's probably the biggest tweet I've had. And but to me, it just makes sense. That's got to be a piece of C-3PO's head, or at least something that can go in the back of that little thing that he's got there.
Just so you know, they're our friends too, okay?
Yeah.
Like, they're not just your friends.
Our friends.
Oh, they're our
I said
friends.
Our friends. Did I say my friends? I meant our friends.
I'm just
Everybody's. Look, hey, those guys are the best. Everybody loves them. There's one of those shows that every Monday and Thursday I just don't miss.
Yeah,
I just never miss them.
You can't miss, and they all do a really nice job in all seriousness, because I think that they've been StarWarsNewsNet.com for the last several years has been my first go-to place for Star Wars news. But then once they did the podcast and they've kind of done this reboot, and James, Lacey, John, they do a great job. Obviously, those three enjoy each other. They're really funny. If you have time, go on the Resistance. I think it was the Resistance broadcast account. Apparently, Lacey dropped like an F-bomb or something. They had to bleep it out. But I really think that there should be like an unfiltered version of the podcast release now, because I think them swearing it would take the conversation to a new level. I don't think it would make it more like legitimate. It's pretty solid already, but I'd laugh.
Well, and I can say, as long as we're on the topic, that when I was at Comic-Con and I had the chance to meet them, they're just as cool and friendly and nice in person. As you know, they've also been, all three of those guys have been on my show, and they're just great. They're great guys. But anyway, we're talking Zori Bliss. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get us way off track there.
No, it's okay. We'll give them a shameless plug. Like, it's acceptable. I mean, that's basically what we're doing out here. We're handing out shameless plugs. We got
Modern
Around the
family.
Galaxies. Pete Fletzer here on the show. Resistance broadcast. Go check them out. Holo Chronicles is in the live chat, so we're just throwing out kudos.
Just throw all
over the
podcasts all the time.
Here's my question though about this Zori Bliss thing, and I'm not trying to be rude, but I've never seen an image of C-3PO with a disc on the back of his head. I thought the idea here was that the Black Series, there was a Black Series figure of C-3PO where the back comes off of.
Yep.
And and like that's where the disc was found. Or did I misunderstand what you said?
No, well, to me, I felt like it replaced whatever that little circle is in the back of his head. But that being said, I don't know how good my C3PO manual has been lost for many years, so I'm not sure how we would uh, manage the headpiece there. But to me, it
You could
makes
be a
sense
smart
that
ass
there's
about
some
that.
sort
That
of
was
connection.
cruel. Don't have my
I'm a wise
C3PO
ass.
manual. Oh shoot, Pete! I don't have mine either. That's why I'm asking. Heaven forbid I ask you a
Ah,
serious question. I
you
try
know,
and set you up as the
what
expert,
are we
and then I
doing
just
here?
get crapped all over.
What are we doing here?
Oh my god! It's like, where's the
But
trough? Oh
uh,
my gosh!
yeah, this is at this point, this is where David says, "Why did I ask him to join me on a Friday night? I've got better things to do," he says.
I just keep asking
So
myself, who has more product in their hair right now? Is it me or is it you? Because like I'm looking at you and I'm
I
looking
think,
back at me,
yeah,
and I think it's probably me. But you look
you
really
have a
good.
lot more hair though than I do. Mine's a little like I got to use this to kind of, I don't know.
I,
It's
I
kind of,
feel I
I don't
feel
even know where
I,
it's
I
going.
feel like you didn't have to take it there. Like I think you have a great head of hair. Is there anything more that we need to say about Zori though? Because I think that this is my concern
We
here.
brought it up. We should talk about it.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Are you choking? Here, let's all watch. Pete, take a sip. How was it? Angel's Envy. Is it the bourbon?
That
Is it
was
the
good.
rye? Is it the rye?
It's the bourbon. It's not the
Ooh,
rye. It's the bourbon.
rye is like a $200 bottle, man. That's obnoxious.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I
That's a lot of them.
it's like we don't have money for that. My
We
concern
we
here
are
with
going
Zori,
off the rails.
right? My concern here with Zori Bliss though would be that I get concerned that this is all being set up as like a major plot point, and I really don't. I don't need C3PO to go like all killer. It's a concern of mine if
Mhm.
it's going to be like a humor bit. And I'm looking at this at the images right now, and I'll bring the two of us back on. But I just guess my concern is the fact that this is going to be like, whoever Zori Bliss is. I don't want it to be a major plot point because I feel like you
Yep.
have less than 3 hours to tie up a lot of loose ends and wrap up a 44-year saga. So I just don't want to
Yep.
spend a whole lot of time on Zori Bliss getting this thing on the back of C3PO so he can get red eyes and he can go shoot him up for like 5 minutes and then everyone like laughs because like, oh my gosh, C3PO is a killer droid. I
Yeah.
just like I guess I just don't need that. So I guess I have a lot of hesitation about the whole thing. But really the only reason why I wanted to include this is because I think you're great and I'm really happy to see that it took off for you because I want more people to know
It was
about you and
fun.
your show. But yeah, I guess do you have concern? I mean, I
Thanks.
think this is definitely like a first act thing that gets
Yeah.
addressed and hopefully it's fast.
Yeah, I think we're being uh, uh, politely misled here. I think the red eyes is just probably something that happens when whatever that disc does to him. I think the images of him holding all the weapons. I think that's either a disguise for him to get in somewhere, or it's I don't think we're going to get shoot 'em up 3PO. I think when we had that in Attack of the Clones, we all know how well that went over. So I think it's more likely that there is probably some sort of plot point about the memories that were wiped from 3PO. I mean, if you remember at the end of Revenge of the Sith, it's one of the last lines is take this droid and get his memory wiped. And so I think my guess is it's just something that they need to unwipe his memory or find some sort of tool to move the story along, but I don't think it's going to be a major plot point. That's my guess. I think it's all in good fun right now, but I think it's just a piece of the film.
I
Like
really like that. Yeah.
it's not a major plot point.
Yeah, I just don't need another like Canto Bite situation where we basically have like another completely different movie inside of the movie. I don't know what
Agreed.
you've seen on Canto Bite, but for me, it felt like it just was not necessary. I think
Yeah.
there's a good moral there, but it wasn't necessary for me. And I don't want to derail anything. I went like 2.5 hours. I just want to be moving towards the end. I want to get to Palpatine, figure out that reveal. There's a lot of reveals.
Yep.
We have time to figure this out. So that's the Zori Bliss thing. Congratulations again. Just like really nice job getting that out there. It was really fun to see that get hot on
Thanks.
the internet. It was really cool. This also kind of sets up another thing. The fact that New York Comic Con was just had, and a lot of news
Yep.
dropped from that. We can do this one of two ways. We can start with the toy news, or we can start with Lucasfilm Publishing. Let's actually do that because for those who don't know, New York Comic Con just happened, right? Pete Fletzer was up there, and Pete, one of the panels that you were at the Lucasfilm Publishing panel, correct? How did that go?
I was. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Having not gone to a Star Wars celebration, I had no idea what these panels were like, and it was literally if you just take Rosario Dawson, Rosario that's her name, right? And Claudia Gray out, and take every other Star Wars author and put them on the stage. I mean, literally, I think it was, I want to say 8 or 9 people. You had Charles Soule, you had you had name them. They were all there. You had
You said Delilah
Alexander
Dawson, right? You said
Freed,
Delilah Dawson.
Delilah Dawson, not Rosario Dawson, who's a fine actress, but not a Star Wars author.
No, that's okay. I just want to double check. I thought I heard that.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know anybody's names. I barely know my own name. But there was some announcements, but it was cool to see them all up there. I don't know how Charles Soule became the luckiest man on the planet, because he's working on the Kylo Ren series, which there were a number of jokes made by all the panelists about how they're not allowed to say anything. But he's working on the Kylo Ren series, and he's also, as we all know, the Star Wars comic book series is coming to an end with, I think it's the next issue,
67.
but then it's with 67, yeah, and then it starts again on January 1st, and it's picking up right at the end of The Empire Strikes Back. Like literally, the images they showed from the comic book are Luke losing his hand to Vader, and then it picks up from there. What was great though, Charles Soule had such a great sense of humor. He says to the audience, he goes, "Put your after The Empire Strikes Back, and all the questions you had, like, now that Luke has a robot hand, is he turning into a robot? And is is Darth Vader really his father? Why would he lie to him about something like that?" And he had a great sense of humor, but it'll be interesting, because I know there's no canon pieces of material between Empire and Jedi, and this is going to fill in some of those holes that we've never had answered before. And I think that might be where we get the answer. As in my opinion, is that's where we're going to get the answer, where how Maz ended up with Luke's lightsaber. I don't think we're going to get that answer in the movie. I think we're going to get it in the comic books. But that was one of those interesting things. Kevin Scott was there. I had the opportunity to meet him. He signed my Dooku Jedi Last book, which is great.
I'm trying to. I'm telling this story. Okay, you just pause yourself. So I'm freaking trying to get some images for the show tonight, and I'm like, "Hey, Pete, can you send me a graphic that we can use for the Comic-Con segment?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure." And the next thing I know, I have this photo of him hugging Kevin Scott. I'm like, "What the hell is this? You've never hugged me like that."
I need to get.
I was jealous. It's like Jedi Lost might be my favorite book in the last year and a half. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful to anyone else. It wasn't even technically. Well, they did the audiobook, and now they're going to release the script, right? But man, let's talk about some great Dooku stuff. And you're just hugging him like he's a cousin, like he's home for Thanksgiving. You're just like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in a year. Good to see you. Have some turkey leg."
I mean, to be fair, if anybody waits in line, they could have gotten their picture with him. But let's pretend, though, that he was excited to see me.
I could have gone up there, too, and I could have got my photo with Kevin Scott, too. Okay, well, I was in Illinois.
Anybody could have done it.
I was in the Midwest.
I didn't.
The farthest reaches of the galaxy, man. It's in the top of the show every damn episode, okay? The farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest, okay? It's hard to get to New York. I don't live in Jersey like you.
Fair. That's fair.
Sorry, that was a rant. I'm sorry. That was inappropriate.
I can't help you with that.
I'm sorry for getting upset. I keep looking at my phone. You mentioned the image that they showed from the comics. My work phone right now, the background of my phone is the hand getting sliced off and the sparks off of his like burnt skin tissue. Like that is maybe the prettiest comic panel that I've seen in a long time. So I made the background of everything.
From what I've seen, it looks like a beautiful comic. I'm just excited to get some information about that time period. I think there's a lot going on. But to me, the highlight of the show of that particular panel was at the end. They didn't share much about Project Luminous. I feel like there's got to be some direct connection to Rise of Skywalker, and that's why they're being so extremely tight-lipped about it. I mean, the only thing that we saw was that it's. I think it says, the Force is what gives a Jedi its power, and blah blah blah, and then it has until, and then sort of leaves you hanging. So there's got to be something related, I think, to Rise of Skywalker. But the highlight of the panel to me was when they were done. Um, the publicist from Lucas Publishing said, "But we have one more thing. I want to bring up Mark Thompson." Now, if you listen to the audiobooks, which is the only way, for the most part, other than the Chuck Wendig series, that I digest any of the books, other than listening to like Star Wars Explained or Tarkin's Top Shelf to tell me what the book was about with spoilers, is listening to the audiobooks. And Mark Thompson does such an amazing job. So he gets up and he blind reads. They didn't say what he was reading. And he goes into Thrawn's voice. Now, to me, I liked the Thrawn books, but I loved the way he read them. And to see Mark Thompson in person read Thrawn in Thrawn's voice from, just 30 feet away was just a highlight for me. That was probably one of my biggest fanboy moments in a while. And I waited to speak to him afterwards and shake his hand and get my picture with him, because to me, he is the voice. He's the Star Wars novels to me. His voice is what's been bringing me back to the Star Wars universe through the novels.
Well, and it's such a production, right? Because you get his voice and you get how passionate he gets about making each character feel like their own. But then you get the sound effects, like those classic Star Wars sound effects. You get the score.
Yeah.
You get like actual John Williams music underneath there. And you really are, it's like a radio drama. I mean, it's the theater of the mind. You're able to close your eyes, digest it, and then you're able to kind of like let your imagination take you to that world. And I love doing the audiobook. And I think that's why I like Gavin Scott's Dooku Jedi Lost so much. Because I was able to, all right, well, it's kind of like a younger Dooku, so I'm going to say it's a younger Christopher Lee, and just kind of like imagining the robes and him going through the temple, and he's training younglings, and it's just really cool. That's such a great opportunity that you had. I'm glad you had that experience, and I really appreciate you just sharing that with us. Charles Soule is the man. You mentioned that he's doing the Kylo Ren thing, and I'm so happy. I called this months ago, and I'm sure I was not the only one, but I said when it came out that Gillen was going to stop the run on that main line, I said Charles Soule, because Charles proved himself. I thought Poe Dameron was fine. Like it was fun to go around with the Black Squadron.
Yep.
But that Vader run 1 through 25, that's my favorite Star Wars in the last decade, and that's saying a lot. We've had 3 Sacco films here by December. We've had 2 side side movies. That's been my favorite Star Wars in the last 10 years, and I'm really thrilled to see what he does with this main line. I'm bummed that you didn't get anything about Project Luminous, because all eyes on that. I'm excited for it. I do have concerns. What more could give a Jedi its power other than the Force? I think that's there to get us speculating, but you can't have something more powerful than the Force, right? Because I feel like that's almost like a George Lucas midichlorians thing, and then and then it's like, well, then if you're going to do that, then why not just have George come back? I don't know. I feel like it creates like a lot of conflicts there if you're trying to undermine the Force again, saying that there's some working mechanism that's greater than that. So I'm curious to see what it is. They have the best of the best writers working on this project.
And it's Marvel, it's Del Rey, it's everything. It's every printed Star Wars is involved in it.
Now, something else that I do want to take a look at, and we mentioned the published thing here. I do want to go ahead and bring over the Star Wars Newsnet article. This is some of the toys that were released at New York Comic Con, and I want to go through this honestly just because I love the Black Series figures, and I know that you're going to see these on your end too, Pete. But I might take the lead, and then I'll introduce each one, and then if you want to give your feedback on it real quick. But I'm really excited about these ones. So let's go ahead and dive in here real quick. Let's see if I did this right. Okay, here we go. So you're looking at the Resistance. Look at that Resistance broadcast, top left corner, giving them all the love. Star Wars Newsnet's podcast. So these are images of some of the products released at New York Comic Con, in case anyone hasn't seen these. And right off the top, we are getting an IG-11, which a lot of people again thought that IG-88 was going to be in the Mandalorian, Pete, and we're getting IG-11 because, as Dave Filoni said, fans have all these stories and experiences with IG-88, for example, already through the expanded universe. Let's keep those memories intact. Let's create a new character. I'm pretty excited to see what IG-11 does in The Mandalorian, Pete.
Yeah, that one clip that we see of him spinning around, blasting the hell out of everything, that's a win to me. And his voice is Taika Waititi. You cannot beat that. So I'm excited to see him.
It's going to be great, and I love how Tycho is being included on there. We also have the Jet Trooper, the First Order Jet Trooper, which I'm really excited about. I loved in the original Battlefront games when you could play as Jet Troopers on the field.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun. And don't we see Jet Troopers? Haven't we seen Jet Troopers in the footage already here for Rise of Skywalker?
We saw, like a eighth of a second. We see one flying on Pisana real quick. Yep.
We have Wedge Antilles. We know that he's going to be back for Episode 9. We have a 6-inch clone Commander Fox figure that looks pretty sharp. We have a Yoda. That Yoda looks significantly better than the Lego Yoda. Any Lego collectors know that the UCS Yoda looks just like ass. It just does not look good. Would not spend my money on that. Save your pennies for the next UCS ship that's going to cost like $9,000 and put your money towards that. But this Yoda figure looks pretty good. A lot of these figures, that we're talking about, they're still in that $20 price range. You're getting Luke Skywalker from the Yavin ceremony in A New Hope, which is fine. I would rather get the next one, which is Luke Skywalker as a Jedi Knight from Return of the Jedi. Again, all $20. I don't know. Is there a toy that you saw, Pete, that really stuck out to you from the convention that you might have seen?
I hate to say it, but not really. I mean, I think they were all kind of cool.
You were too busy hanging out with Kevin Scott. Just say it. You were too busy.
We were. Yeah, we were about. We had 3 or 4 slices of pizza. We kicked back. I don't know where my daughter was. She came with me. I lost her because I went with Kevin to wherever he was going and just left her behind. It was very poor parenting on my part.
You're a terrible parent. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. No. I've actually, as the Holo Chronicles guys, if they're still on, they know that I've gone into the funk hole, as they call it, and I've become quite a Funko collector. So that's where my focus has been. But it was interesting was when we didn't see that many toy. Well, we saw them, but it was just hard to get at the show. I mean, there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people at New York Comic Con. So we stopped at GameStop and Target on the way home, and my daughter and I picked up more stuff there than we did at Comic Con. But it was interesting. The Mandalorian sold out quickly. The Black Series Mandalorian sold out everywhere it was.
It's like $50.
And somebody, I've seen them selling online already. But the funny thing is, my GameStop, my local GameStop, the guy there. It's like he held one for me, which I totally appreciate. Wow. And so now it's sitting up on the shelf. But I had to. So here's a funny story. I went out today with my son, my 7-year-old son, who's been dying to rip open my Mandalorian Black Series in a box. I'm like, sorry, buddy, you can't do it. And we saw one on a shelf today. And so we gobbled it up, and he ripped it out. And I'm actually happy he did, because I'm glad I wanted to see what it was like out of the box. But I like the Black Series figures. They all look so good. Every single one of them is so detailed, and they look so great. So, yeah, well, I can't say there's one in particular. They're all just great. Actually, I like the new Kylo, if I was to pick one.
Kylo looks good. And by the way, apparently I hurt Josh's feelings. Andy from Holo Chronicles says that I offended him with my Lego Yoda comment. So my apologies there. There's these Skywalker Saga figures that are pretty cool. They're golden. So like I'm looking at a BB-8, C-3PO, R2-D2, Jango Fett, Mace Windu, Kylo with Rey. Looks like you got Poe with Finn, Yoda with Maul, and then Obi-Wan with Anakin. So pretty cool there. And I've gone through this entire article while you were talking, Pete. I had this whole thing scrolling, and I'll go back to the top because there's one of those wearable helmets. It's the Stormtrooper, the Incinerator, that I've always wanted those so bad. It's $100. It's going to be available in the fall, okay? And I'm assuming that I would be able to get this at a GameStop as well, but those helmets just look so good. And like I'm not a cosplayer in the sense that I'm not like Jesse to where I have the ability to make my own armor, right? And so I have to go out and find Hasbro's creations in order for me to be able to pretend that I am one of these characters, because I want to be a Stormtrooper because the Stormtroopers look the coolest. and the Empire did nothing wrong.
I've always
depending on who
wanted
you
that.
ask.
Yes, I've always wanted to be a stormtrooper. Always, always, always. But I also like the 501st guys. I got to give it to them. That the fact they build those all their own, just that blows me away. And I'm also not willing to spend the money on the stormtrooper.
The attention to
armor.
detail is insane, man. I watched Jesse upgrade his Mandalorian cosplay, which it looks awesome, and he's put a lot of heart, sweat, and tears into that armor, and and it's not even comfortable to wear. I mean, that's my thing, is the fact that we went to Wizard World a couple years ago. I think he took like 250 photos with people, which was really cool to see people coming up there.
That's
but
awesome.
I mean, it's heavy. He's sweaty. Kind of starts to smell. I'm not trying to like talk badly about my buddy here, but it was reality. But no, love what they do. Love all these toys. Loved hearing about your tales from the Lucasfilm Publishing panel. Anything else from New York Comic Con that we didn't touch on that you'd like to mention before we move on to our last topic here on episode 70?
Not really. I mean, the reality is there wasn't that much Star Wars promotion, which was a little bit surprising. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway for me from Comic-Con was that New York Comic-Con was that there was very little Star Wars going on. But you know what? There were a ton of Star Wars fans. My daughter and I ended up following a Jedi for like the last couple of blocks on the way to the Javits Center. So they were all over the place. It was just fun. It was just cool and some great cosplay. There was a guy who did one of my favorite characters, Orson Krennic. I had to go get a picture with him. He didn't look like him, but it was a cool costume, and so the costumes were where it's at. I think Jesse, you would have loved Comic-Con just for the costumes.
Well, he's actually in the live chat right now, and he wants to clarify that he cleans his kit after each event. So I need to be nicer. I thought he might have stepped away from it at the time.
Doesn't mean you don't get sweaty during the event. So I think
hey, I'm getting sweaty here just talking about Star Wars with you. Want to give a shout out to Red 5 Mom. Says Charles Soule makes Jocasta New a badass senior citizen. Met Red 5 Mom in Chicago at the podcast. Like all the YouTubers, podcasters had like a gathering that Saturday night at the hotel bar, and got to meet Red 5 Mom. It was so cool. She's so sweet. And so I'm so glad that she's joining us here on the live show. And absolutely right. Jocasta New was a badass. Not sure how I feel about that Force Crystal powered blaster, whatever issue that was. But still really cool seeing Jocasta New have more of a story than just the grouchy lady in the library that we got to meet in Attack of the Clones. And then there was something else I was supposed to bring up. Frammy says, hi, Pete. Awesome seeing Pete bringing more Shriv to YouTube. It's a great shirt. You also talked to him on the show.
I was going to say, you can purchase this shirt.
What a jerk. You come on our show and you're like, you know what? I've talked to Kevin Scott. I've talked to these great people. Buy my merch. I came on your show, and that is all about your show. If you want to hear Pete and I talk about how important it is for you to buy his merch,
you will hear it on Tuesday.
Watch our episode. Is that on this Tuesday?
It'll be, yeah. Unfortunately, can't watch it because I'm not as fancy as you guys. I just do the audio podcasting. But
I love how you say how fancy we are. And by fancy, do you mean that we have to start 34 minutes late because my computer crashes and I thought I was going to have to switch out my video card? If that's what you mean by fancy, Pete, by all means, we are the fanciest of Star Wars YouTube shows around.
This was the perfect example as to why I don't do a live show, because I can tape my show and I can be prepared and put it out whenever I feel fit. You are under the gun, and I appreciate all the work you put into making sure that we were able to get on with these 14 fine people that are on the line with us.
I should have taken a print screen at like 10 after when the show isn't on air live. There's this moment where Pete has his hand on his head, and I can't tell. It looks like he's trying to push into his forehead with all of his force, like trying to like go through his skull. And I felt so bad. I'm like, Pete, my camera won't even work now. Can I just have a couple of minutes? And he's like, my kid is in the back starving, but fine. And then like you started yelling at the kid because the kid your child was just having a good time.
I wasn't yelling at my children.
You got up out of your chair and you started shouting. You're like, hey, no yelling. And it's like, let the child express herself, okay? These are her formative years, okay? She needs to allow herself to emote, okay? You let your child emote.
When it comes out in therapy, she's going to be like, David Amilati ruined my childhood. I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, so you can't. So here's another sign of a bad parent. You can't put the blame of your child's outcome on me. I've never met her. Okay,
I've already done it. It's too late.
What did she come out? Did she come out saying like she knew somebody, and you're like, that sounds really important, but I'm not going to talk to you about it right now. Who does she know? She knows some bigwig. It's amazing. The Fletzer family. Let me tell you, YouTube, like the Fletzer family is well connected.
Star Wars.
No. Who does your daughter know? Apparently,
I don't know. Her teacher said she knows somebody who was in Attack of the Clones or something. So
unbelievable.
Sure.
Guess what? Guess who the next guest is of Around the Galaxy with Pete Fletzer? Unfreaking believable. You're going to have the school teacher on and be like, school teacher, I don't know how familiar you are with this show, but I'd like to end the show with 10 questions kind of based on or inside the actor's studio. I kid. Why? 1, you're my friend. 2, because your show is great. 3, because I wish I would have had the idea to steal inside the Actor Studios format, because I would have done that 3 years ago, and I could have been talking to Shriv and Lacey and all these great people. I'm over here holding myself because I don't know what to do next. Unfreaking believable. Is he still laughing? Is Pete even still here? He is.
I am still here. I'm still on the live.
I like how everyone in the live chat just went silent, and they're just kind of like, are they actually
I'm holding
mad?
my porg, so I feel better.
Where did you get that porg? Because I'm going to get it for Gilbert. He needs a cuddle buddy.
I got this is a 10-inch Funko Pop porg.
Christ,
I got it at one of the conventions I went to. Yeah.
Little souvenir for you?
Yeah, it was for me. That's one of the things I bought for me.
Is that hard to do as a married man with children that you silence with loudness? Is that you don't have a lot for you? You have a whole room dedicated to this podcast.
I have more than my fair share of Funko Pops. That's kind of where my little $10 at a time addiction is.
It's better because I've got like 27 Black Series Rebel figures that are still in the box that I probably should sell off. So if you want those, by all means, we can talk about that after the show. Now that we've had our deliberating, whatever we want to call this part of the show, we still do have one topic. Do we have time, Peter? Or do we need to get out of here?
Hey, look, I got all night. My kids are asleep. I just finished a glass of bourbon. I'm good to go.
Yeah, the kids are asleep because they tired themselves out from crying because Daddy has to be on the Beyond the Blast Doors show. Kids are gonna go to school on Monday. Yeah, freaking Beyond the Blast Doors. I'm gonna get a bunch of hit from like. How old is your child? Can I ask that question? Approximately how old?
I have a 10-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy.
All right, so I'm gonna have like all these like 7 and 10-year-olds sending me vulgarities on my YouTube comments. I'm gonna have to censor all my YouTube section comments now. Christ.
She might be watching it right now for all I know.
Really?
Sure.
Oh, man. I hope I haven't said anything bad. Oh, man. I don't want to get you in trouble. I would feel so bad. I don't think I've said anything inappropriate. Oh, now I'm super self-conscious. If I said anything inappropriate, please let me know in the live chat, everybody. Red 5 Mom says silence with loudness, and she's laughing. So it's good to see that someone at least appreciates our sense of humor. Pete, the last topic that we have in the show that was in the rundown is, and this is really exciting, Tony Gilroy back in Star Wars. This is for the Cassian Andor series that I believe is set to it's about to be in production. It's not dropping until 2020, I believe, maybe early 2021. I had it on the show notes and then I deleted it. I'm pretty sure it's 2020. I think Obi-Wan, the Kenobi series will be out in 2021. That's right. So we get the news that Tony Gilroy is involved in Tony Gilroy is the reason why I think a lot of people really enjoy Rogue One because he came on and helped with the reshoots for that third act. Yeah. Say what you want. I think Gareth Edwards did a good job on the movie, and whatever Tony helped with Rogue One, I'm a fan of it because Rogue One's my favorite Disney-era Star Wars movie. When you hear that someone who's responsible for that third act, which many say is the best part of that movie and also produces some of the best movements in Star Wars so far. What does it do for your excitement level for Cassian Andor? Because I think that was a real gamble of a project to announce early on when they were trying to unveil stuff for Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's funny because just like I wasn't excited about Rogue One when I heard it was coming out because I figured we knew the story, and then it became one of the most fun Star Wars movies to watch. I don't know if it's my favorite, where I would put it on the list of favorites, but it's certainly a fun movie to watch. When I heard about Cassian series, I felt like you said, I felt like it was sort of a strange thing to put out there because I don't know that there's a lot of clamoring for what was Cassian doing before Rogue One. But with the addition of Tony Gilroy, you know, it increased my confidence level. Look, I always knew it was going to be it's going to be a good show, right? It's going to be well put together, top to bottom, no matter what. And it's, again, much like I think we talked about with the Mandalorian, we really don't know what's going to be involved in that show. We don't know. I mean, the great thing about an 8 to 10 part show is you're going to get many more characters than just the one or two you expect. Same thing with Kenobi. As I've said before, I'm not sure that we need the Kenobi story, but I'm sure we're going to get something really cool and get something that we really want to see. So
those are some fighting words, Pete. We need the Kenobi series. Come on, man. I've only been waiting for Ewan McGregor to come back as Obi-Wan literally since 2005. Like he went off into hiding. I'm like, what is he doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see. I mean, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan is amazing, no question. But it's like 19 years in the desert watching some kid from afar with some macro binoculars. So
see, and that's what I used to think too. I don't know why I have this zip tie in my hands now, but it's become my fidget tool. It's amazing. Parents have to spend $20. Pete, you're a terrible parent. You probably did this. You bought a fidget tool for your child to spin with. I'm kidding. I think you're a great parent. But I just have this thing to fidget with now. I think that's what I thought originally about Kenobi. Why would you do it? Because isn't he just in the desert for those 19 years watching over Luke? But then I heard someone say, but what if he did go off planet? Or what if, somehow Bail Organa has to get to him on planet side and, communicate the plan for the Republic? And, there's so many different scenarios that could happen. I know that there's a lot of push out there for Vader to be in that series. Because no one ever said that they didn't meet up in between, Revenge and A New Hope. I don't like that idea. I like that line of once you and the Master and I was learning, but now I'm the Master. I want that to refer to that failure of Anakin Skywalker, that failure of Vader on Mustafar. But hey, that's another show for another day. Right now, we're talking about Cassian Andor, and I do want to clarify, it is out in 2021. Got the article here on StarWarsNewsNet.com just to clarify that. And I do want to include this little bit here that we have for this article that Variety dropped. According to the article from Variety, director of Rogue One's reshoots will take part in writing and directing this Disney Plus series.
Great.
Although unlike the creative team working on the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, it sounds like there will be other writers and directors involved in the project. Gilroy is currently confirmed to write the pilot episode of the series and will direct multiple episodes. So,
well, as Red 5 Mom said in the chat, and I could not agree more. There's two characters that I feel have become my favorite characters, among my favorite characters in all of Star Wars, and they both were in Rogue One. One is Orson Krennic. I don't expect we'll see him.
No.
And the other is K2SO. K2SO is, without a doubt, my favorite droid right now. And I love R2, but K2 is R2 with English words, and just as much of a wisecracker, and he's got the best lines in Rogue One. So.
Well, how great was it to see like Alan Tudyk when they came back and they announced that he was going to be involved? I believe that was at Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. That's a character that fans were able to latch on so quickly. The sarcasm, I think part of that is like what you mentioned, like that British wit. But it's really cool to kind of see a droid hold its own. We're so accustomed to the subservient C-3PO, and R2 smarts off, but you don't know what he's saying. I really do think if they re-release another special edition of the original trilogy, I think they should put subtitles on R2-D2. I'm not sure if that would ruin or enhance my experience, but I'd like to know what the hell he's saying. I think that'd be beneficial for a few reasons. But I agree. K2SO, more of him. I would love to see somehow Krennic brought back in the mix. I just don't think it's in the cards. I think just with Ben Mendelsohn's schedule and like what story there would you tell, right? Because Catalyst was such a great book. I think Catalyst is in my top 3 canon novels still. You're just not going to be able to do more with that character, spend enough time and tell more worthwhile story than you were able to in that book or in Rogue One. I'm just curious. I'm just curious to see what they end up doing for that series, whether or not they reintroduce how they met. We saw how they met in comics, but do they bring that to cinematic life? Are they just on the run from the Empire, trying to get information for the rebellion? I would love, honest to God, if they would dig into Cassian's, I guess, origin, for better lack of the term, but the fact that he comes from a family of separatists, and learning that perspective, because we haven't gotten that from anyone else, Pete. We've never heard, of a separatist going to who we consider are the good guys that still are capable of shooting people in the back.
Yeah, well, I think I'd love to see it be a very dark series. I think that people, not everybody, but I think a lot of people sometimes tend to forget that. Yeah, there's that scene where, in an effort to make sure the information got to the rebellion, he had to shoot somebody. He had to shoot a good guy to do it, and he had to do it because it needed to be done. And so that's a sort of the blurring between good and bad and black and white. And so I think I think that could be a great series. You use K2SO in there for your humor, and again, it'll be surrounded by 8-10 other new Star Wars characters. So it'll be a lot of fun.
I wonder, you mentioned like you want it to be like a darker thing, Pete, and I just wonder tone-wise what that's going to be like, because Gilroy was super honest about not liking Rogue One when he came on board. He changed a lot of things. It's one of the reasons why we didn't see Vader or Krennic on the battleground on Scarif. That whole thing was changed, and probably for the better. Right. But I wonder if that means with Gilroy being involved, I wonder if this will be just like Rogue One. There's really not going to be a Force user or much use of the Force, and you're pretty much going to get this like spy, suspense, thriller. They have to be trying to acquire some information, but is it something different than trying to find out, who's the designer of the Death Star? It's got to be something else. I'm just curious to see what they set up. Anything that we need to talk about more about that series? We know that it's going to be set up at least 3 years before New Hope. Not sure.
I'd love to.
Go ahead.
I think that could be where. I think this is where you could see Ahsoka Tano. I think we saw her as Fulcrum in Rebels. I think the time fits pretty well for that. I think we could see her have a role in it. I think that's about I think that's where you could see some interesting crossover.
I would be fine with that, but you'd have to have Filoni attached, because there's no way that character is coming back without Filoni directly involved. Right. And from my knowledge, he hasn't been attached to this, right?
I haven't seen it yet, but that whole group is so tightly connected. They're doing such a great job of making sure that all the stories stay intact. So yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, Filoni's not going to give her up for any show, but who's to say that maybe he's not going to peel off a Mandalorian to go work on this? I don't know. I'm just making stuff up now, but I would love to see her there because of the Rebels connection. And I think if we're going to see a live action Ahsoka, that's where it's going to be.
Okay, hear me out. Okay, well, I got really short here. Let me sit up. Let me sit up in my chair and make this. What if Zori Bliss is Ahsoka Tano? Go.
Well, I hate to say it. But
you don't like that idea?
No, I love the idea, but I just saw
it's a terrible idea. You don't have to like it.
On one of No, it's a great idea. It's just not gonna happen because they've already said she's human. I saw it on something from the Visual Dictionary or something I saw online today. Okay. So sorry.
I think that Ahsoka came back. I honestly think it would work more in the Mandalorian, because we don't know how long anyone of her species exists. I'd like to see her pop up in season 2 of Mandalorian. I think that'd be probably the best chance. If not, because I think they're going to go away from animated for a while.
I think
just
so.
because Resistance is limited, right? It ends after the second series, and it's actually the second episode this Sunday night, right?
Third episode is the Sunday night.
Have you been watching it already?
Yep.
Have you been watching that? The second season?
Yeah. That's my 7-year-old's favorite show. So.
Well, do you like it? I mean, it sounds like you're just watching it because your 7-year-old likes it. And I know for a fact that you had Kaz on the show. There's another guest that Pete's had on the show that I guess we'll go ahead and shout out.
Hey, you're the one doing all the name dropping, not me. I'm just saying.
Hey, I live living vicariously through you, apparently.
Oh boy. No, I don't dislike the show. I think it took a while to take off.
Yes.
And I didn't love the first episode, but of season two. But the second episode, season two, was much better, and it's picking up speed, I think. But I think honestly, it's an animated television version of the comic books, and that some of it is really adds a lot, and some of it's kind of like, you know, filler. And I don't mean that in any negative way. I don't want to be all positive. It's not
No, you gotta
my
be, you gotta
favorite
be
show,
honest.
but it's a cool show. I mean, it's a cool show, but it's not the best Star Wars there is. Now, it's interesting though, because there's such different perspectives on it. I think Star Wars Explained. Alex Damon says that it's some of the best Star Wars he's seen, and again, it's what do you bring to the table, and what do you bring with you to Star Wars, and I think that's what's so cool about just the fandom and meeting everybody that I have, like you and others. Most of the people on the chat I've had the opportunity to meet or talk to or whatever, and it's everybody brings their own thing to it, and that's what makes Star Wars go round.
I think the greatest thing that Resistance does is it gives you that perspective of watching the main events, like the main timeline occur. We've never watched as a third party. Like we've witnessed the destruction of Star Killer Base, or not Star Killer Base, like Hosnian Prime, for example. But like witnessing other people in the galaxy not directly involved with that main timeline witness that event, that's probably the coolest thing that Resistance has done for me. But again, season 2 on TV right now. You can watch that Sunday nights, Disney XD. I'm assuming once that wraps up, you'll also be able to find that on the Disney streaming service, Disney Plus, on November 12th or whenever they wrap up the series. We have made it through 90 minutes. That's a full episode of Beyond the Blast Doors. Again, episode 70 was live on YouTube on a Friday night, something completely different. Usually we go live 11 a.m. on Sunday mornings. If my computer can withstand the magnitude of Pete and I collaborating, I would love to be able to do this again on a Friday night, and I like to maybe do it more consistently on Friday night. But this has been a lot of fun and always just a real treat to talk Star Wars with you, Pete. I hope
Same here, man.
that we can bring you back on as a co-host again here in the very near future. What do you think?
I would love that. I don't get to talk news and reviews and quote unquote current events in Star Wars on my show. My show and your show are very different, kind of complementary in that regard. And I've loved this opportunity to kind of talk about all the stuff that I've seen and all sort of the knowledge that I have, and to be able to talk about it and get different viewpoints on it is awesome. And I love the chat room area. That's just the best. That makes it even better. So
It's a lot of fun to be able to have that in the moment connection with people like from across the country, across the world, and just having their input. It makes it a lot better, because if it was just, for example, if you just tuned in on a Sunday morning, you just heard me talking for an hour, you're not watching that. But Jesse, David, and I had a lot of fun. I'm sorry.
I would.
You
I'd
would?
watch it.
You probably should be taking care of that child that's in the other room crying herself to sleep. But no, it's a lot of fun to have the live chat. It's really fun to have you though in. And again, David was out of town today for work, got back late. I think he ended up seeing Zombieland 2 double tapped, I think is what it's called. And then Jesse again recovering, and it's great to have Jesse in the live chat with us tonight. Glad that he's feeling better, and excited to get the whole crew back together again. But this won't be the last time that Pete and I get together again, because for the reasons he mentioned, he likes to talk the news. Doesn't get to talk news a whole lot on his show, the format of his show, which again, around the galaxy. It's not like we've given him shameless plugs throughout the entire conversation tonight.
Yeah, but if you love David Amilati, you're going to want to check out the show that we're dropping on Tuesday, because you were our special guest. We finally got you on the show, and that's about 90 minutes of it's about as focused as this episode is.
Actually, it's a lot more focused than this episode, you jerk. I don't bring you on my show. I don't go on your show telling you how to do your job. This is unbelievable. It's like you come on here, I'm like, hey, let's have some time together. We don't get to talk that often lately. And then it's just like daggers, just throwing daggers out like a ninja. No, but seriously.
It all comes from a good place, Dave.
I just keep telling myself he actually likes me. It's just because there's people watching right now. For anyone who might need the reminder, maybe they've forgotten. I don't know why they would, but where can we learn more about Around the Galaxy? How can we check out your show?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at ATGcast, and you can hear me
Selfishly
you can
plug.
shamelessly.
Maybe you don't
Right,
want to watch
you
the
can
show anymore after all. I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah, maybe it's not worth watching. No, you ATG Cast. I shamelessly promote my show and talk Star Wars and try not to get in trouble and just have comments on things. I love being on Twitter. I'm on Twitter way too much. The show itself is Around the Galaxy, the Star Wars Fan Talk Show, and it is on every place you can catch a pod. And you can also go to atgcast.com, and all the episodes are there, as well as some of my writing and my crazy Phantom Menace fan fiction novel and some of just my opinions on things. If you want to read me rambling instead of just hearing me ramble, you can do that as well. But I definitely I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate everybody who follows me on Twitter and listens to the show and checked in with us tonight on the chat. And this has been a blast. And I do hope that we make this a more regular thing. This was a lot of fun.
I think so too, and definitely check out Pete's website, because the stuff that he writes on his own. Of course, we've talked about his fan fiction piece on our show a while ago, but he does just randomly. Pete, you'll go on your website, you'll randomly drop 3 or 4 paragraphs of this crazy idea that you had, and it's really intriguing.
Yeah.
So definitely check out the website. And of course, for Beyond the Blast Doors, if you're like, how do I follow them? Where do I go? Well, you go on Facebook, you go on Twitter, you go on Instagram. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. But as always, as you're doing in this moment, maybe you're watching us on the live show. And so that's episode 70, man. It's in the books, and it's just kind of surreal that we were able to do this. Again, apologies for those joining us on the live show. A little later start tonight than originally planned, but I think the wait was well worth it, because we had a lot of great conversation, substance, but then we kind of go on tangents for speculation or addressing rumors or just what we personally want, how we drink bourbon. These are the things that we talked about on the show, and it was a lot of fun, Pete. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, man. This was great.
All right, everyone in live chat, thank you as well. Be sure you join us next week for Beyond the Blast Doors. We will be on our regular time, 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, unless that changes. And then you want to find us on social media. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us. Everyone in the live chat, you have been absolutely fantastic. 2Med2 says he just got out of the shower. I hope he's not messaging us while he's still in the nude. Don't answer that in live chat. It's too late for that. See you soon, everyone. May the Force be with you.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.